NBA trades that completely ended careers. For many players, a change of scenery could be a good thing, but for some, it's a nightmare. Teams are always looking to get better around the league, and will do whatever they can to bring as much talent to their team as possible. The problem is, sometimes players fit into certain systems and fit with certain players. The players on this list are exactly that. Keep watching to see many of the NBA trades that completely ended careers. Joakim Noah. First off, this wasn't a trade, but Joakim Noah played 9 very solid seasons in Chicago. He averaged 9.3 points, 9.4 rebounds, 3 assists, along with 1.4 blocks per game. When Noah decided it was time to leave Chicago to sign with the Knicks, he put together 2 seasons in New York averaging 4.6 points per game, 7.9 rebounds, 2 assists, and 0.7 blocks. With Chicago, Noah was one of the league's top-tier defensive bigs in the league. Noah had shown solid playmaking abilities, and had a solid scoring touch even though he shot awkwardly. Once Noah signed with the New York Knicks, Noah didn't see much time on the floor due to constant injuries. After the move, he was slow on defense and couldn't shoot from the foul line at all. It got so bad that the former Bulls center fell off the Knicks rotation, and presumably got caught for using performance-enhancing drugs. Not even those were able to help Noah get back on track. Noah's time with New York ended very ugly. However, he was taking full responsibility for what went on in New York. Noah hoped that he would find success elsewhere after failing in New York. He went to Memphis and called his time in New York a dark time. "I got kicked off the team," he said. "Obviously you know the situation. It's unfortunate." Noah lost his cool during an altercation with Knicks head coach Jeff Hornacek during a practice. The altercation was over playing time. It didn't end well for Noah, as he was eventually kicked off the team. Noah was a major disappointment for the Knicks, who thought that they had a big three that included Noah and Derrick Rose, along with then-president Phil Jackson. Noah signed a $72 million contract and played just over 50 games for the Knicks. "I had shoulder surgery on my left side before I signed my deal. Then I had 2 surgeries that year," Noah said, "and then I had the drug suspension. So I dealt with a lot of crap. I had a lot of crap going on. It was not easy. I think these are all life lessons. It was a tough time for me mentally. Failing like that on this stage, I really wanted to do well on. I take responsibility, and it took me a while to digest that." Noah continued to add fuel to the fire when he was on a podcast and said that he was too lit to play in New York City. He soon clarified those comments, saying, "Everybody who knows me knows that I take the game really seriously and that I work really hard," Noah said. "And when I said I'm too lit to be in New York, I was talking about mostly when I was injured and when I got kicked off the team. It was a dark time once I got kicked off the team. And New York is lit as hell." That's what I should have said. I should have said New York is too lit for me. Obviously it didn't work out, and it's still something I have to live with. I wish it did work out. Things got worse with this story, as the Knicks general manager Steve Mills told reporters that if it was his decision and not Phil Jackson's, he wouldn't have signed Noah. Noah didn't want to get baited into saying anything else when asked about Mills' comments. "What do you want me to do, talk crap about him? That's not my style. I understand that Steve Mills is somebody who always wanted to position himself, and I wish him the best." In his return to the Garden with the Grizzlies, Noah was eager to get back on the court. "I hadn't played in a long time, so to be on the court and get consistent minutes feels good," he said. "I'm healthy. It's been a while since I've been healthy, so I don't take that for granted. After everything that happened in New York, my perspective is a little different. I appreciate any opportunity. It's a blessing." Noah signed a 10-day contract with the Los Angeles Clippers in March, but he went from a star center to a 10-day contract player. That's a huge difference. Lamar Odom. Lamar Odom played 7 seasons with the Lakers, scoring an average of 13.7 points per game, 9.5 rebounds, and 3.7 assists. In his 1 season with Dallas, he scored an average of 6.6 points per game, 4.2 rebounds, and 1.7 assists. Odom has personally said that this trade ruined his NBA career. It was at this moment where Odom had his downward spiral, where he was on a hospital bed in 2015 on kidney dialysis. Odom was already having trouble with his relationship with the Kardashians, but that wasn't the only obstacle. In December 2011, Odom won the 6th Man of the Year award in another winning season. However, the Lakers shipped Odom with a second-round pick to the Dallas Mavericks for a future first-rounder. The Lakers wanted to get his $8.9 million salary off their payroll. "That trade from the Lakers basically ended my career in purpose," Odom told The Vertical. "I was never really myself ever again. Being in LA, the structure, the people I knew, it hurt leaving. I had great memories with the Lakers, with Kobe and Pau. That was a special time in my life. I got traded the season after we lost to Dallas in the playoffs, and I'd won the 6th Man of the Year for the team. To trade me after winning 6th Man of the Year? What else do I gotta do? Why? I think about it all the time, about how much I had left in the tank. I had issues going on, but barring injury, could I play in the NBA today? I could play. I should still be playing. At the time of this interview, there were a couple players in the league older than Odom still putting in work in the NBA. Players like Vince Carter were still playing at a high level, and Odom felt like he could too. He just left the ideal spot for him personally. Odom was a really skilled big man who played a hard-nosed, unselfish style. He never relied on his athleticism, and Odom did have some of it. The 2012-2013 season was his final season after that one disastrous year with the Mavericks. Odom found some success as a rotation player for the Los Angeles Clippers, but it wasn't enough to stay in the NBA. The trade of Odom, along with the retirement of Phil Jackson as a coach, started the Lakers' collapse. Their winning percentage decreased each of the following 5 seasons, Kobe Bryant's final years in the league. The Lakers are currently back with LeBron James and Anthony Davis holding it down. Deron Williams. Deron Williams played 6 seasons in Utah with the Jazz. He averaged 17.3 points, 3.2 rebounds, 9.1 assists, along with 1.1 steals per game. In his 5 seasons in Brooklyn, he wasn't far behind his former stats, with 16.6 points per game, 3.2 rebounds, 7.5 assists, and 1.1 steals. The problem was that the Nets expected growth for him, not for him to be stagnant. The Jazz traded their all-star point guard Deron Williams at 26 years old after 5+ seasons with the Jazz. Williams was the 3rd overall pick by the Jazz in 2005, coming out of the University of Illinois. He was blossoming with the Jazz, and the Nets thought they found their point guard who could take them to the top. With Williams and young center Brook Lopez, the Nets moved to the Barclays Center in 2012 and became the Brooklyn Nets instead of the New Jersey Nets. The team even got to experience a couple postseason berths after several down years after Jason Kidd left. The Nets acquired Williams after 3 losing seasons. That season, he had a wrist injury that would prevent any success the Nets thought they would have. The Nets missed the playoffs that year and the next. To help Williams on the floor, Brooklyn traded for the Boston Celtics Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Jason Terry. The Nets sent 3 future first-round picks to Boston. This all took place because Williams wasn't turning into the leader they thought he would be. Maybe adding Pierce and Garnett would help. Then Brooklyn also traded for Atlanta Hawks All-Star guard Joe Johnson the same summer. Now the Nets were ready to compete with their 3 additions alongside Lopez and Williams. It didn't work out, as the Nets lost 2 first-round playoff series against the Chicago Bulls and Atlanta Hawks. Williams was waived by the franchise before the 2015-2016 season, and his career with the Nets was a large disappointment. Williams had multiple injuries and struggled to find success like he had in Utah. Since his days in Brooklyn, Williams struggled to find more work in the NBA. He's since retired, and was never the same player after turning injury-prone with the Nets. Nets fans just hope Kyrie Irving doesn't become the next Deron Williams for the Nets. Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas played 3 seasons in Boston, and helped rejuvenate a Celtics team that had lost Pierce, Garnett, and Ray Allen. The dynasty was over until Thomas, who was Mr. Irrelevant in the NBA draft, became the superstar for the Celtics. In 3 seasons in Boston, Thomas averaged 24.7 points, 2.7 rebounds, 6 assists, and 1 steal per game. After a trade to Cleveland, Thomas's production was extremely limited in just 15 games, as he averaged 14.7 points per game, 2.1 rebounds, 4.5 assists, and 0.6 steals. The Celtics ended up trading Thomas to bring in Kyrie Irving from the Cleveland Cavaliers. It wasn't public on how severe the Isaiah Thomas injury was. Thomas was going to be sidelined for the early portion of the following season. Of course, most of us still assumed that he'd be back early in the season. The Celtics traded away Thomas, who averaged 28.9 points per game and 5.9 assists per game during their prime. Thomas reached levels we'd never expected from a player of his size. The Celtics added Kyrie Irving, and he seemed like a distraction to the team. Like Thomas, Irving had plenty of injuries himself, although he's become a consistent superstar in the league when healthy. Thomas, who is unemployed at the moment, still believes that if the Celtics would have kept Thomas around, that the Celtics would have another championship banner in TD Garden. After playing in TD Garden for the first time since getting traded, Thomas, who is playing for the Denver Nuggets, discussed what could have been if he had never been dealt to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Since the trade, Thomas has been very outspoken. The Cavs shipped their star point guard Kyrie Irving, who was unhappy playing with LeBron, to the Celtics in exchange for Thomas, Jay Crowder, Ante Zizic, and a couple of draft picks. The Cavs pick we now know turned into Colin Sexton. Before being traded, the 5'9" point guard was averaging just south of 30 points per game during the 2016-2017 NBA season. He nearly led the Celtics to the NBA Finals in 2017, but the Celtics couldn't get by the Cavs in the Eastern Conference Finals. Thomas's career took a downward turn after he missed months of playing time with a serious hip injury. He has now bounced around the league, and is now currently a free agent after he was granted his release by the Clippers after a trade deadline deal with the Wizards. We will never know whether or not Thomas would have been able to bring the Celtics another championship banner. His hip injury was very serious, and reality is, even if he stayed with the Celtics in his former situation, his hip and injury history might not have allowed him to perform at a high level anyway. Clearly, for Thomas, leaving Boston and having a different role with Cleveland didn't help. Teammates in Cleveland were getting annoyed with him, and Thomas argued that Cleveland never practiced. Less practice could have hurt Thomas's game too. Thomas talked his way out of Cleveland, and other general managers talked themselves out of hoping that Thomas could be what he once was. Thomas also felt like Cleveland didn't want him there. After his 15-game stint with the Cavs, he told the media that he just wanted to play where he was wanted. This was after a game where LeBron hit a game-winning shot. Thomas jumped to greet James, but James barely noticed him and celebrated with the rest of the team. It got to the point where Thomas wasn't even used in crunch time. After a brutal 116-98 loss against Orlando, Thomas called the team out and coaching staff for not making in-game adjustments. "When we hit adversity, we go our separate ways," Thomas said after Cleveland blew a 21-point lead. "Guys started to go one-on-one on offense, and the defense, it's every man for himself." Ty Lue responded to what Thomas said, and simply said what Thomas said was not true. Lue, however, made sure to make adjustments in the next game, as Thomas finished with the worst plus-minus of any Cav in the game. His effort wasn't there. Thomas, even after the win, wasn't happy that his teammates were getting rotation minutes while he wasn't. Thomas's career will always be remembered as a Boston Celtic. The way his career finished up flat out stinks. He was exciting to watch with Boston, and that fan base loved him.